Okay, hello. So welcome to 7th episode of Semaphore Uncut, a weekly show about CI/CD and Semaphore. In this episode, we are going to explore Semaphore agents and see how you can use them in your pipeline to, and adjust them to your needs. Okay. Of course, if you have any questions, feel free to hello Durga. Feel free to write them in the chat box, and I will do my best to take care of your questions. Okay, so as usually we do, let me share my screen, and we are going to create a new organization, add a project. So Uncut 7. Okay. And then we are going to dive in and see what we can do with agents and how we can use them. So I'm installing the CLI. Let's create a directory for the project. So Uncut 7. We need to create a repository. Let's add a readme file. Let's do git init. Okay, and the initial commit. Okay. Good. Now let's create repository. Cut 7. Okay. And add this repository and push this repository to GitHub. After that, we can connect to our newly created organization on Semaphore, and after that, just add this project. Okay. Now we will need to push this repository. To commit the example pipeline that was created for us in this .semaphore YAML file, and the new pipeline run should start in a second. Okay, and here it is. Good. Okay, so while this is running, we can jump into our YAML specification and start exploring agents from there. Okay. So this is the example YAML configuration that was generated for us. And this is the part at the pipeline level where agent is specified. So in what is at the moment available is this machine agent, which maps to a VM where all your jobs in your pipeline are run. And machine is defined by these two attributes. And the first one is a type of machine, and that is actually the size of a VM. So in this situation, this is a machine that has 2 vCPUs, 4 gigs of RAM, and has 10 free gigabytes of space, of hard drive space. But that hard drive is implemented as a RAM drive. And that means that it's at least 10 to 15 times faster than SSD drives. That's where Semaphore's amazing performance comes from. And I/O is particularly important when you are running some test on your DB or some things that are disk I/O intensive. Okay. And the other part is this OS image attribute, and at the moment only one operating system image is available, and that's Ubuntu 18.04 image. Okay, so maybe we can start with spending some time on exploring our machine types. and from there we can move on to exploring our software stack. Okay, so as I said, once you define the agent like this, it's applied to all the blocks and all the jobs in your pipeline. So what can we do? For instance, we can debug this job, and what we should see is that this job was executing in a machine that had, okay, let's see, that had 2 vCPUs. Okay, and yeah, the easiest way to check is just to run htop, and as you can see, we have 2 CPUs here defined, and let's check the memory. So it's yeah, close to 4 gigs of memory, and those are, yeah, as I said, 2 basic parameters for defining a machine. So let's power off this machine, and maybe the easiest way to show that you can actually use a machine with 4 cores is this. So we are just going to change this type of machine. This is the change, and we are just going to commit this, so larger machine. Okay, so our new pipeline should be running. Okay, let's try to start a new job with the same configuration that this job had, so we can easily jump into our VM, see what's going on. And now when we run htop, we should have 4 CPUs available. And yes, that's the case. As you can see, 4 vCPUs are available here, and we should also have, yes, 8 gigs of RAM, a bit less. Okay, so one other neat way to explore these machines without needing to make any changes to your pipeline is to just use semdebug project command, which allows you to quickly get a VM. There is also option to specify a VM of which size would you like to explore. So we need to do semdebug project, and the name of our project is Uncut 7, and by default smallest machine type is used. So yeah, just to remind you, if you missed previous episodes, this semdebug project is starting a VM, and it's exposing some of the environment variables so you can clone your repository, but you will be positioned on head of your master branch in this case. Yeah, let's see what have we got here. And yes, we got a machine with 2 vCPUs. So let's do power off, and you can pass this machine type flag, and you can choose a larger machine type. So yeah, standard 8. And yes, at the moment those 3 types of machines are available. We already have requests for some other machine types, and we had those requests previously. But in this first batch, we are only going to release this E1.2 with 2 vCPUs, 4 vCPUs, and 8 vCPUs, and memory is also doubling as the number of vCPUs. So let's htop here, and as you can see, there are 8 vCPUs available, and there should be 16 gigs of RAM. Okay. What else is very important, and that's how you can specify those machine types in your pipeline. So what we have seen so far is that for your whole pipeline you can specify one machine type. However, you can override machine type in any of your blocks. And to just check that, okay, we got a question from Yasha. Hi, Yasha. So since V2 is not out yet, we need access to the beta to use this. Yes, exactly. If you jump to the semaphore.com and click on the link in this banner, you can leave your email here, and we can let you in. The other option to maybe get access maybe a bit faster is to jump into our Slack channel. So it's Semaphore CI/Semaphore, and there is a link to our Slack community. You can jump in there. Yeah, and get the access potentially faster. Okay, so moving on, we want to explore option to define a different agent. And if you jump here, let's say agent. Okay, this is the how it is defined, the form. This is the example on the pipeline level where it's defined. Let's check if there is an example where it can, yeah, agent in a task. Okay. So as you can see here, pretty much the definition is the same. We just need to move it to that level. Okay, so semaphore.yaml. Let's say, so we are doing some, building our software here in this example dummy pipeline, doing smoke tests, unit tests, and potentially in these integration tests. You are doing something which is much more resource intensive. For instance, you are spinning up a couple of different services. I don't know, RabbitMQ, MySQL, a couple of others. And yeah, you want to run these tests, and you need more resources to get the results faster. And here on the task level, you can override the agent and say, okay, in all other jobs in the whole pipeline, I'm fine with using 2 vCPUs, but in this task I would prefer to use I would prefer to have a bigger machine. And here is the example of that, and let's change that here and set it to 2. Okay, so task agent on the task level, and yeah, this agent will be used for all the job in this block, and you can have multiple jobs in a block. So let's commit this. So let's say use bigger machine for integration tests. Okay, Yasha just responded that yeah, he's going to join a Slack too. And generally we are for the previous part 2 weeks adding people into Semaphore 2 in pretty large batches daily. So I think that actually most of you already got the access to Semaphore 2. Okay, let's see what's going on. Actually we could, without needing to start, without need for that debug job, we could just print the number of vCPUs that we have. And I think it's something like nprocs or something like that. It will print the number of, yes, nproc. So let's add that as a command into our pipeline. So maybe, yeah, here, let's print that. All others should also have just two vCPUs available. Let's add it everywhere. And here we should have 8. And maybe we can also print the amount of memory that we have. Okay. Print info about machine type. Okay. Have I done something wrong? No. It seems that it just takes a while to pick it up for some reason. So there was a change, I committed, I did push, and it went into master branch. This is one of the things when doing live demos. Some things can go wrong, as in this case. Yeah, I don't know. Let's give it another go. Let's do another commit. I think that I missed adding this nproc to one of the jobs, and if we just kick it again, hopefully something will happen. Proc again. Okay. Commits are here 2 minutes ago. Okay. So this is interesting. So either GitHub did not send a hook, or we have not received it, or something similar. Maybe if you're having similar situations for whatever reason and you are just forced to do some debugging, you can come here on your settings for the webhooks and check the webhook. This is the webhook that we have set. Here are events that we are receiving. Okay, and here's the problem: service timeout. So there was a problem on Semaphore side. Okay, so we have a debugging crash course. So redeliver again. Okay, this is interesting. Okay, now it went through. Okay, obviously we have either some scalability issues or a bug somewhere. And if I now go to master branch, yes. Okay, so we missed it once, but I actually now redeliver it twice. Although GitHub said it went out only once. Okay, let's get back on the track. So what are we expecting? We are expecting to see 2 vCPUs in all these jobs in other blogs, but only in this one we are expecting 8. Okay, let's check that. nproc 2 integration tests. and proc 8, and yeah, 16 gigs of RAM. Okay, we have spent enough time on this. Fairly simple. So that's the part of the agent which is responsible for defining pretty much hardware platform where your jobs are running. And now we can move to the software part, and that's the OS image part. So Semaphore 1 is running at Ubuntu 14.04, while in some Docker optimized platform in Semaphore 1 we are also supporting 16.04, and in Semaphore 2 only version that we have is 18.04. Yeah, for this it's probably best to just jump into documentation and see where that image is described. So if you have been following our documentation recently, it's open source, so maybe you can even watch the repository if you are in beta stage and you follow all the latest developments. So almost all programming languages, documentation about details will be covered very soon. But we are focusing on this CI/CD environment reference, and here is that Ubuntu 18.04 image, and here you can learn more about it. So yeah, the key to specify, as we saw, is Ubuntu 84. You have full sudo access. User in the environment is named Semaphore. Okay, and here are like a couple of sets of tools that people usually need. So for version control, there is Git large file storage, Mercurial, SVN, a stack which is supporting browser testing. So essentially Firefox and driver, Google Chrome and driver, and there is this XVFB. If you're not familiar with that, that's actually like simulating like your display on a server which doesn't have a display, and that enables browsers that are not headless to run. For Docker step, we have Docker and Docker Compose. Utilities for public cloud providers are here. I think a tool for Azure is missing. That's something that's coming. So network utilities, and then we are moving into the area of languages. Okay, Mackenzie Drew is saying hey, nice to see you. In Semaphore 1, over a number of years, a bit over 5 years, we have accumulated a lot of different versions of languages. It's on one hand great, so people have a large set of versions of different languages to use. However, there is a problem of kind of polluting your VM a lot with a lot of versions that actually a small percentage of people are using, but it's hard to get rid of that. So in Semaphore 2, at the moment, there is quite a minimal set of versions that's available. Those are usually latest versions. As we see what's the demand, we will be adding additional versions, but potentially in a bit different way. But I can talk more about that a bit later. So yeah, Erlang and Elixir, JVM, Java and JVM languages, build tools. We have 3 major versions of Ruby. This is something that will be bumped to 2.5.3 soon. PHP, Python, Go. Yeah, those are the languages that are available. So before moving into database and services, let's see first how you can select a language that you want to use. Let's jump here for a bit. So this toolbox reference will be interesting. Before diving into it, let me just show you practically how that works. Maybe without entering a debug mode, I can just maybe set it here. So a command which is available in the environment for setting version of a language is sem version. and then you specify the name of language and the version that you would like to use. So let's say that in our case we would prefer to use like older version of Ruby. Let's say we want to go with 2.3.7, and then check the version of Ruby. But also let's check what's the default version. Okay, so set version of Ruby. Okay, so yeah, default is latest version 2.1. We set Ruby to 237, and then we're checking the version, and the version is 237. So as simple as that. You just specify the name of the language and the version. However, version must be one of the versions that are currently pre-installed and available. Okay, let's maybe do one. Yeah, I guess that pretty much explains it without interactively setting the version of different languages. That's the way it works. Area where we are planning to improve over how things worked in Semaphore 1. So let's say you really want 2.5.3 version of Ruby. There is something that your software stack just needs there, and there is always a delay between once the version of a language is released and it's supported in Semaphore. So it can be day, but in some situation can be weeks. Usually there is a very small percentage of people that really need that minor patch version, but still it can be very important to them. To solve that, we are planning to build into that SEM. Let me debug the project so I can show it there. In that SEM version tool, ability to also, if the language is not pre-installed, to quickly fetch it from some local storage. One of the reasons why we are saving a lot of on the disk space is that we are using RAM drives to offer that amazing I/O performance, and then this is a kind of a thing where we have to cut a little bit on. So SEM version Ruby 2.5.1, which is successful. So idea is to introduce something like 2.5.3. Okay, it's not available, and you cannot switch to it. But in these cases, idea is to precompile that language, store it somewhere very close, either on the SSD drives that are available on these machines, or somewhere where in local network, and we can quickly fetch it. So there will be some overhead of fetching it, probably archiving it, but it will be a couple of seconds, but still it should improve user experience much more, and also make our lives much easier. Okay, good. So that was about languages and switching versions. Let's keep this machine running and move on. So actually, since we introduced this SEM version, let's explain where it's coming from and how it's working. So if you jump into a toolbox, so what is a toolbox? Toolbox is open source repository, which is containing some of the tools that are available. So in I think it was previous episode, I was explaining how caching works, and that cache CLI tool is actually here, and this is implemented in Bash. we are trying to keep this, as light as simple, and that it will work also in the future across different operating systems. So there is a cache tool here, and same version is also available here. And same version is a shell script which has a number of functions which are relying on some other bash functions that are built into the VM in the process of building image. So you can switch the languages. That it could be that we will merge that together to have a single script that is controlling those. However, it also makes sense to keep them separated. We will see. But yeah, this it's very, very simple. Just taking the language and the version and setting the version. And actually, if you are using beta, you probably saw in the output of a job that this repository is being cloned every time. So yeah, if you want to contribute something, to the repository, feel free to do so. And once we merge something into master, it will become available in all the jobs that are just started after that merge. And you can see there is like a tiny overhead here of like 1 second of like grabbing that toolbox and installing it in the environment. But yeah, it makes a release process very simple and transparent. Okay, so that was introduction of Toolbox. It's on Semaphore CI/Toolbox, and now we can move to, I think, the last topic about software stack of our agents, and that's specifying a database that you want to use or some other service. So if we go here and go to database and services. So there is another small tool called SemService with a bit of a different interface. So it has start, status, and stop. And it is, okay, let's make a cut here. So in Semaphore 1, if you are a user of Semaphore 1, all services were started by default. And yeah, that is great. That was great and still is great, that you don't really have to think about that, and it's just available running on the default part. However, it really doesn't make a lot of sense to run those services all the time. So some of the services are light for Redis and Memcache, but people also need things like Cassandra, React, some of those Elasticsearch, which is also implemented on JVM, that are really memory, have a large memory footprint and also consume CPU. So the decision in Semaphore 2 is to have those services, but not to have them running by default. So once you get your agent, start executing your commands, you don't have any of the services, you need to start them. So yeah, let's maybe start Redis and see how that works. So it takes a couple of seconds, and now it's available and this is the version, and it's available and it's running on default port, and you can just use it. There is, of course, a bit of overhead with starting these services. There are, of course, like 2 components. They are not available in the machine, but we are fetching them. I will explain that in more details later. And there is also, you need some time to boot them up. We haven't got into really the optimization of this process, so we can speed it up. There are a number of options that will work for sure. And probably a bit larger overhead is maybe starting with something which is heavier, like Postgres. Let's try to start that. So I think with Postgres, it's in this version it takes around 10 seconds to start. However, okay, and it's running, and you see it's on default port. This is the username and the password is blank. We have a prototype which cuts this time in half, but even this is like a very good experience. At least we think it is. We are waiting to hear your thoughts on this. Okay, and this is also the area where some people just want MySQL 5.6, or some people just want Postgres 10. Having them all pre-installed in the environment, again taking a lot of disk space, and it's if you want to have them running, then there is a question. If you want to start another version, then you need to stop the other version and all that. So what is coming in is support for picking versions. That's not available at today, but you just need maybe to specify here 10.5, and it will start version 10.5, or you need a different version of Redis or MySQL or so on. Okay, and I missed a question. So Durga is asking, it support Docker Swarm? I guess the question if the Docker Swarm is supported. Well, it's not pre-installed. Docker machine is installed with all things that come in the package, and Docker Compose is installed by default. But as I said, there is a sudo access, so you can install it easily. Okay. So I wanted to share a bit about how this SEM service is implemented. Maybe let's jump here. I don't know if you are aware, but there is a library of Docker Hub library. It's kind of a special registry. When there are a lot of these, very standard images. So this is the Postgres, MySQL, and so on. And there are, I think over 100 services here that are available. Here is one of them. Logstash, Neo4j, and so on. So we cannot at any point really have all those pre-installed. So the approach that we took, but they are very they are maintained. That's very nice, and they have latest versions. So let's explore. Let's take a Mongo for example. So as you can see, there is a number of versions that are available here, with very different different settings or the way that images are built and packed. And for instance, you can see here that you have versions all the way from 2.3 to actually 11. Default that we are using is 9.6. So let's spend a bit more of time to show you how that's implemented. So it's SEM service, and pretty much, it's accepting this start, stop, status, and then the name of the service. And it's implemented pretty much by it's pulling the image. In this case, this default version. It's starting the Docker image with some sane password, and of course default port and all that. Just waiting for it to start, and then it's printing it. It started on this port and it's available. So I said that there is a bit of a delay where the image is pulled and started. And for these very standard versions, we think that there is option to have image, have these Docker images, built in or cached. So there is no delay for that. Just really couple under 5 seconds for the service to start. Okay. So I think that's it. What I planned for this episode. So we went over hardware. What's available. So there are machines with 2, 4, and 8 vCPUs. Amount of RAM is double of that. So 2 vCPUs, 4 gigs of RAM, 4 vCPUs, 8 gigs of RAM, and so on. That's it. All machines are backed by super fast RAM drives, and yeah, that's for the hardware part. There are other types of machines also coming. macOS is one of the types of machines that are Apple macOS running on Apple hardware, obviously. And moving to the software stack, Ubuntu 18.04 is available today. Pretty much latest versions of, let's say, mainstream programming languages that are available. There's something that you are missing, please let us know. We will see how we will add it. Either it will be available, like baked in the VM, or it will be available for installation, quickly from some local cache. And we also took care of, went through the scripts that are powering these tools. So SEM version to set version of language, and SEM service to start, stop, and get the status of the services. Okay, and hi Alexander, we have a question from Alexander. Are there any plans for caching Docker images so we can use services via Docker cheaply? So if you are referring to this SEM service start and just starting these, let's say, default or very popular services, they will be probably cached, even baked in the image. We will see how we will handle that exactly. Yeah, and in terms of generally Docker caching, that will be episode on its own. There are caching strategies for when you are building the image, and there are also caching strategies when you are moving your already built image through the pipeline. There are two approaches that we are considering here, and we will be documenting and sharing that shortly. So I will not go into details around that. Okay, I hope that I answered your question, Alexander. So they will be cached, and there will be options for caching Docker images. Okay, so we are like at 45-minute mark. I wait a bit more to see if there are any other questions. And overall that's it. Yeah, I already shared that you can jump into our Slack channel. We are trying to be responsive there. However, we are still some parts are under heavy development, so our focus is still a bit more on the development side. But as we move from beta into GA, we will, here's the link, you can jump in. Okay, and Yasha is asking, what about Mac machines? I think you have mentioned something, but I might be wrong. Build, testing, deploying iOS apps. Yeah, so that's something that's coming. It's hard to give a precise timeline. Number of weeks, 3 to 8 weeks. Yeah, it's really not the best to give any promises in that area, but we are working on that, and we have something that's actually already working. So some alpha beta stage, that's something that we will be able to offer shortly, and for the GA to stabilize that, we'll need a bit more time. Okay. So it seems that those are all the questions. As I said, if you haven't, but I'm sure that most of you who are following Uncut have already applied for beta. I think that over 90% of the people are invited and added. So yeah, I hope that you got access. If you haven't, you will get it shortly. Thanks for your time. I hope that you learned something useful about Semaphore 2, and see you in a week. Thanks. Bye.